All right, so we're going to go over procedures for draining the pump and priming the pump. The big one is if it's going to be below freezing for a high for the day, you're going to want to drain the pump. And just because we drain the pump doesn't mean while we're out and about we don't recirculate the pump and get water moving. So the reason we drain it is as we're moving down the road, all the air is coming around the pump and it's causing things to freeze up. Once we get where we're going, if we're going to be parked for a while, it depends on how harsh the conditions are when it like below freezing, wind chill, things like that. We're going to then prime the pump again and circulate that water, keep water moving if we're going to be parked for a long period of time. And then when we get back to the station, we're going to re-drain the pump and start the process all over again. All right, to figure out if your pump's wet, the first thing you want to do is you take this 2.5 intake and we're going to take the cap off. Obviously, the tank to pumps can be pushed in, but if somebody tells you at shift change that the pump's dry, one way you can confirm this is to take the cap off and just crack this. See, we have water coming out, so we're going to close it, and we know we need to drain the pump. So for the first thing we're going to do to drain the pump, we're going to go back here, make sure the rig's plugged in to shore power. Here on the back. Then I'm going to go ahead and turn the power on, ignition on. The engine's not running. Go over here on, ignition on. You're going to let it cycle like normal. Then we'll make our way back to the pump panel. All right, so the first thing we want to do is we want to make sure tank to pump and the tank fill recirculates closed. Then I like to take more of a methodical approach to it, and let's go ahead and take all the caps off and open all the bleeders. We'll start with the 2.5 cap discharges here. The 2.5 intake. Side intake as well there. So we have that. Then we're going to move along here and open up all the bleeders. So we're getting ready to move our way around to the back to open up the rest of the caps. And on the captain's side as well, before I go, I like to go ahead and crack this to kind of speed it up. This will make it go a lot quicker if you just open this up and start cracking the water there. We'll take the rear intake cap off. Then we have a rear intake bleeder right here underneath the EMS compartment. Don't forget this one. And there's one more that everybody forgets is going to be underneath the pump house right here. Just go ahead and pull that out. And like everything else, we're going to take the caps off. And we're going to open up the bleeders. All right, now we're going to make our way back around to the pump panel. Now we can open this up the rest of the way. I'm going to go ahead and open up the 2.5 intake as well. All right, so now we need to start opening up all the discharges because there's some water that's up top that needs to be drained out. So I'm going to start with the deck gun at the top, and I'm going to open it up. You'll see all the water coming out the bottom. You got this engine cooler right here on the right. It's going to be a quarter turn to the left. And then now we're just going to lightly loosen these, all your discharges, and open them all the way up, all the way across. When you get to these side discharges, watch, you'll have water that comes out of them as well. We do the captain's side large discharge. So we have our intakes are open already. I'm going to make my way back across. I'm going to go ahead and open up the rear intake. I'm going to pull the master pump drain. Now we have everything open. So what we're going to do is we're just going to just sit here with everything open for about 5 to 10 minutes until everything stops dripping. You'll look underneath there, stop dripping over some time, and then we'll start buttoning things back up. All right, so now that's been draining for about 5 to 10 minutes. We're going to start buttoning everything back up. We're going to close all the discharges and put the caps and everything back on. So we'll start the same way we just did it. We're going to start at the top. We're going to close all this up, starting with the deck gun. All right, we're going to go over to the engine cooler. We're going to turn it to the right to close it. And we'll work our discharges all the way across, just closing them up. Close the captain side discharge. All right, so we got all the discharges closed. Now we're going to move over to the intake. Close the intakes. Closing the rear intake here. Going to close the pump drain there, and we're going to work our way across to the bleeders. Don't forget these two behind here, they're easy to leave open, which can make it a pain to reprime if they're open. At this point, we're going to start putting the caps back on. One option you have is if it's going to be cold outside and you're worried about everything freezing up, you can go down to the Academy and get some RV antifreeze, and you can spray all the threads down, or even if the cap's not going to hurt anything, but they have it down there. Keep it from freezing up. You can spray it on your pump panel as well. Put the caps back on. All right, so we'll work our way back around. We'll put the cap on the rear intake. We're going to close the rear intake bleeder underneath the EMS compartment. The second rear intake bleeder underneath the pump house. We'll start putting all the caps and that buttons up all the caps, bleeders, and everything's closed back up down in that section. All right, so the last thing we need to do is the booster reel blowout now that we got everything buttoned back up. So we're going to make our way back to the booster reel real fast. And we're just going to take the nozzle, we're going to put it in a drain. All I'm going to do is I'm going to lightly crack it, put it in a drain. Then we're going to make our way back to the pump panel. And we do not need to open up the hose reel. All we need to open up is the reel blowout. So we're going to do it nice and slow. You'll start hearing air moving back that way. And eventually this compressor on the rig will kick on because the rig's plugged in. So this will take a few seconds. There's compressor kicking on. That's what it's supposed to. So we'll let that be. You can see it's blowing all the water out of the booster reel. And we're just going to let this run until it's nothing but air coming out. And now you hear a loud hiss of air going through it. Just let it keep going through until all the water's out. And you can go ahead and open it up all the way at this point. So you get the residual water out of the line. You're just going to let it sit there and drip for a little while. Once that's done, then you go back over here to the pump panel. And you can close up your reel blowout. And then the rig will continue to build air, and we can put the booster line back up. Work. Action. All right, so now we're going to go over priming the pump, and we're going to turn the rig back on. We're going to let it cycle the power like normal, going up. All right, so we're going to start the rig, and you're going to place it in pump gear like normal. So you're going to start with going down halfway for a little bit, until the air stops, and then you go down the rest of the way. You get the one green light for pump engaged. Now we're going to put it in drive. You get a second green light right here that says OK to pump. Now we're going to go out back to the pump panel. First thing we want to do for priming the pump, you can see up top the discharge is at 0, so we need to pull the tank pump. We're going to go ahead and pull our tank circulate just a little bit. We still have anything in there. It's a dry pump. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here to the pump panel and put it in RPM mode. And now I'm going to take it up to 1,000. It's kind of hard to read on this one, but we're just going to take it on up to approximately 1,000 and have to be exact. Right about there. Now we got everything ready to go. Now we're going to come back here to the primer, and we're going to watch these two. These are the same right here. We're going to hold it down. This will take a little bit of time. We're looking for a number between 50 and 70. It depends on. This will probably get in the 60 at a time. It takes a little longer than you think. Just because it's registering there doesn't mean it's totally primed. You still have quite a bit of air in the pump. So we're just going to sit here and hold this for a little bit and see it's kind of going up and down. Now we're going to go back. We'll go ahead and charge we'll do the hose rope for here, but this is at this point when you're at a house fire, you go ahead and charge your brake connects or whatever. If you want to switch it over to PSI mode, if you're used to doing your changeovers to PSI, this is the time to switch it over. That's it.